All right. So yesterday we did a six-figure panel and somebody left a comment that said, you guys are making way more money than I can imagine. Like you guys are in a whole different ballpark. And if you guys saw, there was, I think, 10 panelists in total, and people were from different parts of the country, different cities, different size studios, different types of studios, home studios, commercial, like everyone was very different. And a lot of people didn't even agree on like best place to get leads. And everyone had a different way of doing business, although they kind of followed the same flow. And let's talk about that flow, because in business and specifically in a photography studio, a lot of people like to measure revenue, right? So when you think to yourself, like, hey, am I being successful? Am I successful? You think to yourself, did I have a successful month making X amount of money? And if you do that, especially at the beginning, you are going to be very disappointed, because at the very beginning, when you don't have a lot of systems, when you don't have very much direction, or you don't have a lot of traction, you're just going to want to give up, right? Because if you're measuring things by what your revenue is, it's kind of the wrong approach to take, because we're going to basically have three aspects to this. And in the previous example, I showed you're going to have your piece of content, you're going to have an asset, you're going to convert people, you're going to book them, and then you're going to, obviously sell IPS on the back end. But to even simplify that even more, I've created this diagram. And basically what you're basically doing, or your activity should be, is you're actively hunting for leads. Okay. So that's major activity number one. And let's just say of all the leads you get, maybe 10% book immediately, and you're going to be balling like Hezbollah. But for the most part, not everyone's going to book immediately. And if you're a wedding photographer, if you're a boudoir photographer, if you're any photographer, no matter what, no matter how good you are, most of your leads are not going to book. And by the way, if you have 100% booking rate, 90% booking rate, it's because you don't have enough leads, right? Anytime I hear somebody say, oh, well, I book, 99% of everyone I talk to, you're not talking to enough people. You just aren't. Like 100% of people going into Rolex, Chanel, they're not buying there. So I get it. You're booking 1 out of 1, 2 out of 2, but I'd rather you book, 30 out of, 300, right? That's only a 10% booking rate, but, it's way more bookings and way more volume. So we've broken this down, right? We're hunting, we're trying to get leads. Some of them are going to book immediately, right? On the first call, on the first conversation, the first time they schedule a consult with you. But for the most part, a lot of people are going to end up in your net, right? And in your web. And this is where a lot of activity needs to happen, right? Of course, you can automate a lot of this, but a lot of this does, daily work. Even here at the High Rollers Club, you see, like, we're doing Facebook Lives, right? So you're watching this. I'm in the farming aspects. If you're watching this, like, that is the flow that you're in. You're part of the High Rollers Club. You probably get retargeted with paid ads. You probably see our social. You probably have been prospected through the Facebook group. You see that we do partnerships with other people where we'll be on podcasts, we'll be cross promote at events, obviously organic search. And this is more obviously for you guys, like when you guys are promoting your own stuff in person at bridal shows and expos. But once you get those people in, right, let's just say 90% of them don't book immediately, there needs to be a lot of activity in the farming. And this could include things like your Facebook group posts, Facebook group engagements, comments in the replies, writing to your email list, posting to IG, your IG stories, TikTok, DM, personal message, in person, and texting blasts. And for a lot of people, most people, they kind of neglect the texting because I don't know why. Text messages are open way more than emails. It's a lot more personal. You can probably get people on the phone quicker, but they are more personal. So you probably can't send them as frequently, where email you definitely can, and definitely on the socials. So if at the beginning of this, we started like, how do we add massive amounts of money to our revenue for a studio, right? And to me, the question comes down to, especially when you're beginning, or even if you're in like that moderate range, what are you measuring? Are you just measuring the end result and you're just kind of getting feedback from that? Because like anything in life, right, we should be measuring the activity. When I tell my daughter that she needs to study coding or she needs to get better at drawing, I don't look at the end result of what the drawing was, right? I look at how much practice is she getting? How much activity is she doing? How much content is she consuming? How many things is like, how much conversation in her life is about art or coding? And same for you, right? If you started a diet plan and you just every day got on the scale and you measured your weight, you would be very disappointed and you would want to quit. And you'd be like, this just doesn't work, right? So what you want to be measuring is your activity. And for a lot of the photographers yesterday, obviously some of this can be, let's just say, we'll say that it can just basically be automated, right? Because once you set up and do all the work for organic search, it's just a matter of maintaining. Same thing with partnerships, right? When you obviously you can actively pursue more, but once you have them, right, you can maintain them. It doesn't take as much work. Same thing with paid advertising. And paid advertising for a lot of the studios, if you guys were on yesterday, is a big portion of how a lot of people make money. We had a wide range. Some people, I mean, Natasha said prospecting. She can fill her entire calendar with that. Some people said paid ads, Facebook and Google. Other people are really big on organic Instagram and don't even run paid ads. But the fact is that they have a lot of activity in these hunting phases. And the good thing in my life is that we can pay for that activity with paid ads. We can put in the sweat equity with organic search, or you can pay someone to do it, right? So paying, or you can put in the time for the other thing. But the studios that do really well, that are balling like Hezbollah, right? Average on the panel yesterday, I believe was around 300,000 for the year. So once you're in that realm and you have all these things set up, it's just a matter of refining, perfecting, getting better at, and then getting better at the farming, because you'll see so many studios. And, I'd love to sit down with every single photographer ever and just go through every aspect of their business. But if I go through the most generic ones, I can do a generic one, right? We can look at improving the ads by a small percentage, right? And that could give us a huge increase. Improving the amount of prospecting we do to everyone that comes into our funnel, that'll do huge. Improving the conversions, right? Like improving video, improving the copywriting, the social proof, the reviews we have, that'll make a big deal. Getting better and using a phone script, increase our booking rate, increase our prices. And yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, Chris, we actually ran a major campaign for him. He's actually a mastermind student, but we ran a giveaway. I think initially when he posted this, he said he had about 48 bookings, but I think by 10 minutes later, he had 50. So hopefully we'll finish at about 80 bookings. But Chris talked about how he's been in business for a long time, I think well over a decade. And he had issues with pricing. He just had money blocks. He believed people wouldn't pay as much as they do. So this year, he's brought his biggest package up to around almost 8 to 10,000, I believe he said, where before I think it was like 4 or 5,000. So you can imagine the average sale over the last month, me and him were working closely together for the last 2 months, has just drastically improved, right? So it's all about activity. And Chris is somebody who I think he did over 200 sessions last year. He's trying to cut that down and just increase the pricing so he can have more free time. So for him, we're measuring the activity, right? Change our pricing, run a major campaign. We completely revamped his branding, and let's actually look at that. And his website, like the feedback has been amazing. If you guys saw the before, I mean, I have it somewhere. I think I even made a TikTok for it, but it's just night and day. And this is basically his commitment to having activity. And when he has this activity, the revenue follows, right? Because if he just starts doing a bunch of random things, just kind of, doing something for 2 days, 3 days, and then giving up because he's not seeing the revenue immediately, everything's just going to crash and burn, right? The same way you would on a diet. You go to the gym, run a couple hours on the treadmill. The first 3 days, you're not going to see a huge drop in weight, or maybe you might, right? Water weight. But really quickly, if you're only measuring the end state, you're going to be very disappointed. So the biggest thing is measure your activity. And I'll ask you guys in the comments in the Facebook group or even Instagram, where we have a lot less viewers than the Facebook group. But I'll even ask you guys, what activities are you taking on this week to, hunt more leads down and to properly farm and nurture them, right? Hunting, putting them in the pen, and then farming them. It's just one analogy. Obviously people use nurture, lead generation, whatever, just so that you guys are focused on these activities. And then of course, an activity in between there, other than obviously getting the leads, is the booking rate. Ashley wants to know what the site is. It's Chris Connolly Photography. He's actually in Albany. And yeah, he's super talented. I mean, this is night and day. I wish I could bring up the before and after. Where could I see photography profits? See if I could bring up the before and after. I don't know how TikTok works. At least not on my computer. Mute myself. I have it somewhere up on my wall. Okay, this is it. This is the before and after for it.
Before.
So before, very basic WordPress. Just not my taste at all. I think Chris would say the same thing. And then obviously the after. So night and day. But, Chris is a little bit more established. Chris, definitely even from last year's results, you can see even with his website like that, like he's just been crushing it on socials and he's been doing really well. And he's just been able to like generate a great brand. But everyone's in a little bit of a different state. But basically, these main components are the lifeblood of your business. So if you can, hyper focus on these and create a lot of activity in your day where every day, everything you do, the top 3 things you do are hyper focused on these activities, you're going to be balling like Hezbollah. So hopefully we keep doing a couple of these panels. I love sharing these stories. And for those of you in the mastermind, we're actually campaign is still running. I hope to get at least 80 bookings. It's not failure if we end at 50 because 50 is amazing, especially when you have an average sale, right? Getting close to 3, 4, 5,000. That's more than most studios, 99% of studios make in a single year. So we're going to be doing a breakdown. I asked him, can we do this for the mastermind members? And he said, yes, thankfully. So if you are part of Mastermind 2.0, first week of April, I believe, we'll be doing a complete breakdown, sharing the pages, sharing the ad spend. And if you guys saw, I think a couple of years ago, we ran it for Jen. She did about 100 and multiple people have ran it since, and they've gotten dozens. Hopefully, connect with me too if you're not in the mastermind and you want to know more about that. But let me see if we have any more questions. All right, guys. We did have a lot of unleft questions from yesterday's panel. I think we had well over 100 people on live, which was super impressive. And for those of you that are wondering if we're going to replay it, I'm actually in the middle of editing it right now. And one cool thing about this, so we're going to publish it in the group. We're going to publish it on the website. I'm also going to share every single, let me see if I can share this over here. I'm going to share everyone's websites. I'm going to share, the entire panel. So one really cool thing I found, if you guys edit podcasts or anything like that, there's this smart cut feature in Capwing. I pay, $10 a month for this. And this tool right here by itself is worth it to me. And basically it just removes all silences. So all those awkward pauses for the replays, at least, it just removes them and you can change the sensitivity. Just remove all the the transitions between people. In fact, it's so cool. I love it. I saw another podcast using it and I absolutely knew I had to use it at some point. You just have to be sensitive that you don't overdo it. But it definitely I think it cuts down 10 minutes off of it. You're watching the replay. Pretty nifty to just cut out all the dead space. See, cut off about 10 minutes and then I'll just export it. So hit me up, guys. Hit me up in the Facebook group. And if you're watching this on Instagram, I'll make sure to try to post the link to the Facebook group so you guys can see, exactly what we're about, network with everybody else. And then again, if you're part of Mastermind 2.0, you'll see exactly how we ran this campaign. But hopefully this inspires you guys. Keep up the activity, focus on the hunting, focus on the farming, and let's get that money rolling later.